friends. Today I am going to take you along on creating a wall collage of ornaments that I created. I did this project over a few different sessions, just kind of when I had a few extra minutes to play with all of my supplies. So I started off with the classic ornaments pack, and you can see there I'm painting them white with the bright white chalk paste. You can use acrylic paint, but I have found that the chalk paste gives a better coverage on there, and then when you're done you can kind of just sand off whatever, if you have any rough spots or anything like that, and it sands up real nice and gives a nice smooth finish. So I just find that I like using the chalk paste instead of acrylic paint. So once I get those all sanded up, and I'm just giving them a light sanding, and I'm gonna wipe them down to make sure there's no dust on there, I just grabbed a bunch of my transfers. Some of them are new, some of them are old, and I just started playing with transfers and pastes. I pretty much kept it to the same basic colors. I used black, a couple colors of red, and then Couture teal. So right here you'll see that I'm actually going to chalk on several of these ornaments, and I'm just going to lay my transfer right on top of them. You could also do it the reverse way, lay your transfer down sticky side up and then put your whatever you're chalking on top of there, but either way works just fine. You'll see here in a second, I kind of, when I was pulling the ornaments off, I got my desk a little messy there because I tried to flip it over thinking that would be easier, and it wasn't. I should have just left it the way it was, but it still all worked out in the end. I just needed to do a little cleanup on my desk, but I have a couple different transfers that have those music sheets on them, and I really love those. They give a great background image on whatever you're creating. So I also want to make sure that I dry everything, especially if I'm going to be chalking over it again. You'll see there on that little Christmas tree, I'm actually going to chalk that holly and berries over the Christmas notes or the music notes. So you want to make sure, I don't always show it in my videos, but whenever you're working with this, you want to make sure that your surface is dry before you chalk something else on there. So then I'm just going to grab some green and chalk those holly and berries, and I'm going to grab my little multi-tool, which is great for trying to chalk the tiny little spots in there with the red. And I'm not trying to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but it turns out so cute. I love this transfer. I also love that it's also got the phrase, "It's a Wonderful Life." I'll be using that for sure on a banner, probably on one of my trees coming up fairly soon, I hope. So this transfer is actually the one that was the coordinating transfer for these ornaments. Now it's no longer available, but you can use whatever transfer you want on these ornaments. As you can see, I used many of them. Like I said, some of them are new, some of them are from my stash. I love that striped one. I believe that's a retired one. I'll have to check. And I'm just, again, I'm chalking over the music sheet that I had already chalked on there, just to give it a little bit extra dimension and depth on there. So I'm just kind of playing. This is all about playing and having fun, and I kind of have in my head the vision of what I want it to look like when I'm done, but I'm just kind of playing around and seeing what I can create. also decided to add a little bit of glitter to my ornaments, and this is going to be kind of hard to see in the video, but I wanted to keep it in there so you can kind of see what I did. I used some of the Ranger Distress Resist spray, and this adds a tackiness for the rock candy clear glitter to adhere to. And then the glitter doesn't wipe off, which is great. Once it's dry, it doesn't fall off like, you know, sometimes traditional glitter. And then I have this little applicator that I purchased to just kind of spritz that on. And then once these are all dry, this is where the real fun begins. Of course, chalking these was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, but now I am decorating. So I just grabbed a bunch of ribbons from my stash and some little fur. You can see I added some of that faux fur at the top of those mittens, and it's so cute. I just kind of tried to pay attention to where the hole was on the ornaments so that I would be able to string them up. And you'll also see that I did not decorate the back. Of course, you could decorate both sides. I knew no one was going to see the back side, so I wasn't really worried about it at the time. But if I was hanging it somewhere where it was going to spin around, of course, I would want to decorate both sides. So I'm just decorating up that cute little gingerbread man. I added a little bit of hot glue to help keep his scarf in place. You don't want him to get cold. So this was just so much fun. I love this part of a project where you can kind of just fancy things up a little bit. So I just had fun with it, and it was very relaxing to just sit here and craft and have fun. So I highly suggest that you do a little bit of that in your life because it was a lot of fun. So here you can see I am adding that faux fur on the top, and I just kind of folded it over the top of the little mitten. And I know it's kind of off screen a little bit, but I marked with a Sharpie where the little hole was and used my crocodile to kind of punch it. And then I did the same thing on the other side so that I could kind of get, you know, that hole punched in there. And I used my hot glue gun to put the fur on. And then I kind of just used the edge of my paintbrush to kind of poke the hole through so that I could see where it was. So I'm just going to continue playing with making all of my ornaments nice and festive. With how these ornaments turned out. They turned out so cute. So I could hang them on a tree, but I actually had an idea in mind, inspired by Allie Edwards a couple years ago. She did a similar collage wall hanging, and I knew I wanted to do that. I have wanted to do that since she did it. So I had this stick that I found, and I just hung up all of my ornaments on there with different ribbons and twine, and just kind of layered and layered and layered. And you'll see there's a couple little ornaments like that one right there in Couture Teal. I actually had a set of the ornament surfaces that Chalk Couture had a while back that I also used on there too. Thought I had filmed it, but apparently I did not. But so it looks real cute. I have this huge chalkboard that's in my kind of entryway, transition way in between like my foyer and the living room. So but it still looked a little plain. So I went through my stash of chalk transfers and found this cute pine border. So I was just kind of maneuvering around my wall hanging because I didn't want to take it down. I had gotten it all kind of the way I wanted, everything facing forward, so I wasn't going to pull that down. So I just kind of worked around it, chalked a few times before washing my transfer in between each time. And then once I do that, I am going to grab a holiday phrase to put at the bottom there. You'll see I'm kind of trying to get in between that stick that's hanging there and trying to chalk as best as I can. Now I will tell you, I noticed when I was chalking this that my chalk paste was a bit thick, and I should have watered it down a little bit with some distilled water. It's kind of at the end of the jar, and when it gets to the end, it has a tendency to kind of dry out a little bit. So I knew better. I should have added some water, but I did not. And you can see there how easily it cleans up with just a little bit of water on my chalkboard. But anyway, so you'll see here when I put this Holly Jolly phrase on there, once I pull it off, I noticed that it just didn't come out right because my chalk paste was just too thick and it was getting stuck in the transfer. So you'll see here right when I pull it up, I'm noticing that there's a few spots that it just didn't go through right because there was a clump in my paste. So what I ended up doing, I just washed it off. It was still wet. The chalk paste was still wet, so it was very easy to just kind of wipe off with some water. And then I let it dry, and then I'm going to re-chalk it once I add a little bit of distilled water to my chalk paste. So make sure that your chalk paste is not drying out. And you'll see here when I re-chalk it, it's going to come out so much nicer. You can even see the difference on the transfer. You can see how thin the paste looks on here now. So once I pull that off, forgot a little star, and it looks so cute. So I originally was thinking I was going to use these little stars that I think this came with that transfer. I can't remember. Might have been the other one, but I decided I didn't like that, so I washed it off, and then I ended up just using the stars that were on that same Holly Jolly transfer, and I just kind of picked and chose what little stars I wanted to do on there, and just kind of moved it around, trying not to get extra paste on my chalkboard. But you know, the great thing about this chalk paste is, as you can see, you know, you make a mistake or you do something you don't like, you just wash it off and you redo it, which is great. So once I did that, it looked super cute. I was so happy with this. And I thought I was done, but then I thought, you know what would look really cute is some twinkle lights, because I can never have enough twinkle lights. So I just kind of strung a few on there, and it looks really cute in the dark at night. It's hard to kind of capture on the camera, but so cute. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope you create something for yourself and that you just have a little bit of play. And if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.